What's the worst piece of tech you've ever owned? I have a Canon printer. I hate it more than I thought possible. Nothing about it is intuitive. The drivers are impossible to download. The manuals and instructions seem to have been written by AI in another language and then translated into English, also by AI but not the same AI. And sometimes it just changes its own IP address for squeals and gigs and then it's a treasure hunt to figure it out. It won't scan to my Mac, so I've resigned myself to the fact I must always scan to a USB as an intermediate step. I'd go office space on it with a bat, but I don't have a bat. Google Pixel 7. I didn't even last 6 months before switching phones. I was so frustrated with it. Overheating, constantly freezing, never clicking where I wanted it to click. And the fact that I can't even look at my photo album without internet. Oh, and sometimes when I would be on one app, it would randomly switch to another without warning, without me clicking on anything. Also via phone dash cam. It's recommended by everyone. I bought 2 and had to return one because after the 3rd day, it stopped turning on. Amazon sent me another one, same issue. Microsoft Surface. I've owned 2, because apparently that's how many times I need to be burned before I learn my lesson. I owned them for a combined total of 4 years, and was forced to replace the keyboard around once per year. The first one, the hinge snapped internally and cracked the screen from the inside. The second one, the screen just flat out died for no reason. The things were riddled with software issues, especially the earlier model. In the end I replaced them with a similar style Huawei tablet and it's been perfect for 2 years so far. In 2015-16 I bought a heads-up display for my car. You place your phone on it with their app and it should give you metrics. Absolute waste of money. It was hard to see, had ads, slid around, couldn't see if you weren't sitting at the right angle. What a waste of money. X200B. Not me, but my mom bought EMP blockers for her and her husband's V-Styles. I told her that they're snake oil, but she bought them anyway for the low price of 200 something each, and she bought 3. Old school computer storage comes to mind. Cassettes to load games. You would wait an eternity for the thing to load, then you would get some error. Please start again and potentially lose another hour. Floppy disks. Sorted fine at the beginning, but prone to errors. CDs. We were all lied to our faces when CDs were sold to us as reliable, almost permanent storage. A scratch and you're gone. 5-10 years and your CDs are likely to fail. Surface Duo first one. Absolute garbage unit of a phone. Keyboard fucked up so often I just didn't care to correct. Downgraded version of Android with no option to fully customize the phone like other Android phones. Shitty battery life. Horrendously fragile device with little options for protection. Huge disappointment that has me avoiding the Surface Duo 2.0. My company got our team Microsoft Surfaces back in like 2015 or something and I thought it was so cool and we were all so excited. The first one I had lasted about a month before it had to be replaced. Those things were always glitching out and freezing. I went through 3 of them in 1 year and they finally pulled the plug and switched us to Lenovo. The T-Mobile Shadow was a Windows mobile phone in a sort of T9 slider form factor. I hated it, but gave it a chance because of the return policy. The store lied to me about that, so I was basically stuck with buying a new phone at full price. Next year, the Android G1 came around. I liked it, but returned it within 14 days, not 30 out of spite. My AirPods were messed up and I wanted wireless buds to replace, so I picked up a pair of cheapish $50 buds from Sony or some similar manufacturer. Basically the same thing as lighting $50 on fire. Horrible to use, bad design over the ears, pathetic sound quality and an ugly large charging case with too short of a charging cable. In the 90s or 0s I bought an HP scanner. Once you connected it via USB, the scanner light was on, always. They finally released a software patch, which was a memory resident program that ran on your PC to keep the scanner light off. It was the most asinine thing I'd ever seen, and soured me on HP forever. Modern Xbox controller, it won't stay connected to a PC, it always disconnects and flashes, usually at the worst possible time. Everything new, updated and working fine. Every other Bluetooth device works but not that POS. $70 plus tax plus rechargeable batteries, and I'm using a dollar store cord to make it work. A Dell PC. I bought it with a repair contract that promised to replace it in case of a problem. Instead, the tech support guy tried to get me to take it apart and diagnose the hardware problem. I told him to fuck off and they never got me a replacement. I will never, ever buy a Dell product ever again. Very controversial, but Nintendo Switch. As a very big fan of previous Nintendo consoles, I was so disappointed when I got one. It's just a big market for extremely overpriced games. I think my opinion would have changed a lot more if they released games such as Nintendo Switch Sports earlier. But hey, man shrugging. Can't remember the exact model, but it was some Lenovo laptop I had like 10 years ago. Constantly breaking every few months, so was often without a laptop for weeks at a time. Probably just bad luck with that particular model, since I've had no issues with other Lenovo laptops since then. LG Voyager VX10000. It was advertised as an iPhone killer. Then they started calling it a feature phone. The thing was garbage. Sure, texting and gaming on it was nice, but the internet app was just about useless and there were hardly any apps for it at all. The Logitech review. I spent more time making it work consistently than it would have taken to make a new Plex server. In the end it just slowly stopped working altogether, and I bought a cheap PC, that I turned into a Plex server out of frustration. Printers. And that awful case management program that needed a network share to which all users had read-write access and which held all the private client information. I repeatedly crashed. Mainly printers, though. Fitbits. I've had two. They never tracked properly, never connected to my phone properly. Google Pixel, never charged properly. Just an overly expensive piece of plastic. Will never buy a smartwatch or fitness watch again. Cardio Core. Seriously overpriced chest strap for ECGs while running. One of the most buggy apps I've ever installed. Measurements were wonky and incomplete. Very expensive piece of plastic living in my junk drawer. Volkswagen ID4. Easily the most frustrating, unreliable, dangerous piece of tech software I've ever owned. Whoever designed their software should be banned from ever turning on a device with a microchip. Anything by Sony. Seriously, every piece of Sony garbage I have ever owned has never lasted more than a year before something breaks or it stops working. I've never had those issues with LG or Samsung. Can't recall the specific model, but one of those BlackBerry phones with that little ball in the middle of it. I found it about as useful as those Toshiba nubs. HP printer. Just plain dystopian. Mandatory online account and internet connection to scan a paper when the printer is connected via cable. Drives me mad. This tablet I got from Best Buy. The brand was Visual Land or something like that. It didn't matter if it was connected to Wi-Fi or not, it was so slow. The first Skulk anti-wireless earbuds. I'm sure they've worked out a lot of kinks, but my Beats Fit Pro pair perfectly every time and sound great. 32GB HP laptops for my kids. Updating Windows was a friggin' nightmare. External drive needed, would work about 1/6 times. A Chinese Windows tablet. After a year it became really slow and then the battery on it just died, not letting me turn it on. Microsoft Zune. I expected it would be a simple drag and drop device, but they made it so proprietary it was unusable. iPhone 6 Plus. Worst trade I ever made. I miss the old 5C. It was a nugget, but an absolutely unstoppable nugget. iPod Touch. Accidentally dropped it about 30 centimeters high and its screen still shattered into a million little pieces. An iPhone 3 was my first and last iPhone. I have no idea how people actually like those overhyped paperweights. Amazon Fire Kids. What a complete piece of unintuitive, non-customizable, terrible UI garbage that thing was. NFTs. Luckily I didn't purchase it as it was handing out as a promotion. But seriously, how fucking stupid. Dell Digital Jukebox MP3 player. I cheaped out and assumed it was just as good as an iPod. It was not. A Sony Xperia X10. I wanted to be different when the early iPhones came out. What a hunk of garbage. Printers. Even the best printers I've ever had have only worked acceptably. Huawei P8. That phone was so immensely back to an old iPhone 4 after 6 months. Razer mouse. Overpriced and break within the year. Not buying from this company again. Every HP device I've ever owned has been the worst device I've ever owned. I'm ashamed to say it. Kanye's stupid piece of shit speaker thing. Bose AirPods that only worked with their music that helps you sleep. Every Android phone I've had the displeasure of interacting with. BlackBerry Storm. First smartphone. Almost the last.